Welcome to the deep dive. Before we even get into today's topic, I need to ask you to hit that like and subscribe button right now.
Yeah, you are definitely going to want to help us keep the lights on for this one.
Exactly. Doing that helps us uncover more of these hard-hitting, really controversial topics. And today, we are wading into waters that are, to put it mildly, turbulent.
That is an understatement.
We are looking at a massive ebook called Women's Legal Supremacy, Feminist, Marxist, Postmodernist by Conrad Riker. And this is not your standard polite book review.
No, not at all. The author actually positions it as a forensic autopsy of Western civilization.
A forensic autopsy, which implies the patient is already dead and we're just here trying to figure out the cause of death.
Right, and we should clarify right out of the gate who this book is explicitly written for, because Riker is very clear about his audience.
Yeah, this isn't for the casual reader.
It's definitely not. This is targeted directly at men who consider themselves red-pilled. Men's rights activists, guys in the manosphere who basically look around and feel like something in society is just fundamentally broken.
For those of you listening who might not spend a lot of time on those specific forums, when he says red pill, he means waking up to a painful reality instead of living in a comfortable delusion.
Exactly. Riker describes this as the most dangerous book ever written because he argues it speaks forbidden truths that you just aren't allowed to say out loud anymore.
It's an ultra-long, incredibly incisive, and frankly fascinating read. If you want to follow along, and you really should because the sheer volume of case law he cites is massive, you need to buy it right now. Go to Amazon Kindle or Google Play Books and grab a copy.
Because our mission for this deep dive is to unpack his central thesis. Riker's core argument is that our institutions, law, media, education, even the family, were completely captured by a feminist, Marxist, postmodernist ideology.
And he claims this capture created gynocracy.
A gynocracy, yeah. Rule by women, for women, and specifically against men.
Which is a huge claim. But he starts swinging right away with the legal system. When I read his chapter on what he calls gynocentric immunity, it honestly felt like he was describing an actual caste system.
In a way, he is. The book argues that the state views men and women through two completely different moral lenses. It treats women as infants and men as predators.
Infants and predators, that is such a stark contrast. So the idea is an infant is never really responsible for the mess they make, right?
They are vulnerable, they need leniency, but a predator is always guilty. They need to be caged or punished. And Riker argues this lens distorts everything that happens in a courtroom.
Which leads us directly into what he calls the PMS defense.
Yeah.
Now, I know that sounds like a bad 90s stand-up routine, but he cites serious, actual legal precedents where this is used as a legitimate get-out-of-jail-free card.
It's not a joke at all in the legal world.
Yeah.
He pulls data showing that female offenders who claim PMS or hormonal overwhelm are significantly less likely to face prison time for violent crimes.
The specific examples he uses are just visceral, like that case in Texas.
Oh, the landlord case.
Yeah. A woman stabs her landlord 6 times. 6 times. During a dispute over rent. And her defense was basically that she was on her period.
And the result was probation. 0 jail time for multiple stab wounds.
Unbelievable. And compare that to the UK case the book brings up.
Where the woman bludgeoned her partner with a hammer.
A literal hammer.
Oh, really?
Still a weapon. And she received a suspended sentence because the defense successfully argued menstrual rage.
Right, menstrual rage. And Riker contrasts this directly with how men are treated. Because, men have hormones too.
Exactly. Yeah. Testosterone fluctuates wildly. But if a guy goes into court and claims testosterone rage after a bar fight,
he's getting a much harsher sentence. The book mentions a guy in Ohio who got actual jail time just for yelling at a police officer or stealing cigarettes.
Not hitting anyone with a hammer, just yelling.
Just yelling.
So
Riker frames this as emotional incontinence. He says the legal system has accepted female emotion as a valid, medicalized excuse for violence.
While simultaneously criminalizing male emotions like anger.
Precisely. Medicalizing female crime, criminalizing male emotion.
It's mind-blowing when you lay it out like that. But Riker argues this didn't just happen by accident.
No, he says this is the direct result of a feminist Marxist fusion.
Let's get into the history here, because this is where the autopsy of our institutions really begins. He claims traditional Marxism was all about economic class struggle, right?
Yeah, the bourgeoisie versus the proletariat. But Riker argues that when that didn't fully take root in the West, the ideology mutated.
It shifted from a class war to a gender war.
Exactly. In this new framework, men are the enemy class. They are the new bourgeoisie, and women are the oppressed proletariat.
And according to the book, this specific ideology has essentially captured HR departments, universities, the mainstream media.
And that capture gives rise to something he calls the emotional veto.
I found this concept fascinating. The emotional veto is basically the power to shut down facts or policy or even due process just by claiming you feel unsafe.
Or triggered. Riker argues that in a gynocracy, a woman's subjective feeling completely overrides objective reality. If she says she feels unsafe, the man is instantly treated as dangerous.
Regardless of whether he actually did anything wrong.
Right. And he connects this to the GSR machine.
The gossip shame rally machine. It literally sounds like a piece of military hardware.
Well, he argues it is a weapon. It's a covert social warfare network used to destroy male reputations without a shred of evidence.
He brings up some pretty heavy statistics regarding false accusations here.
Yeah, the core issue he points out is the total lack of consequences. If you falsely accuse a man and ruin his life, and it's proven false later, the GSR machine doesn't punish the accuser. It just moves on to the next target.
And he backs this up with the female hive mind concept. He actually cites fMRI brain scans for this part, which was wild.
He does. He uses neuroscientific studies and social phenomena, like looking at the mechanics of the Me Too movement, to argue that there's a kind of neural mimicry happening.
Meaning people are just coordinating their outrage to survive socially?
Yes. He claims it's not based on an independent analysis of facts. It's about social survival. Dissent is punished so severely in these social circles that a hive mind has to emerge to keep everyone safe.
Okay, so for anyone listening who has kids, especially boys, this next part is vital. Riker called what's happening in our education system a war on beauty and excellence.
The meriticide, the literal killing of merit.
Right. The book argues that male competence, the natural drive to build, to win, to be the best, is now actively viewed as toxic.
Or oppressive.
Yeah.
Because excellence naturally creates hierarchy. And if your ideology demands equal outcomes for everyone, then hierarchy is the ultimate enemy.
That anecdote about the boy in Ontario really drove this home for me.
The 14-year-old.
Yeah, he's 14, he enters a science fair, and he builds a quantum algorithm project.
Just genius level stuff.
Absolutely, and he wins. But instead of celebrating this kid, the school actually issues an apology.
They apologize for making the female students feel inadequate.
I mean, think about that. You have a kid doing quantum physics, and the institution's first instinct is to manage the feelings of the students who didn't put in the work.
It's the exact war on excellence he's talking about. And it feeds directly into the infantilization of men. The book argues society basically wants men to be weak and dependent now.
Through what he hilariously calls the Peter Pan syndrome industrial complex.
It's a great term. He's talking about modern HR and therapy cultures that constantly push men to open up, to cry, to be vulnerable.
Rather than being stoic and productive.
Right. Riker argues this has nothing to do with mental health. It's designed to strip men of the resilience that makes them dangerous to the status quo.
Okay, so we've covered the legal system, social dynamics, education, but we really have to talk about the money.
Yeah, his economic arguments are brutal. He introduces this concept of economic parasitism.
So this is the claim that women control the vast majority of consumer spending, right?
Yes, some data he cites puts it around 80% or higher, and they receive the majority of welfare benefits, but as a demographic, they pay a minority of the actual taxes.
So you have a system where men are effectively subsidizing the very institutions that the book claims are working against them.
Which he calls matricidal capitalism. He links this directly to the abortion industrial complex.
He cites a staggering number there, 1 billion abortions.
Yeah, and he frames it as an economic system that monetizes irresponsibility and systematically erases fatherhood.
Which naturally brings us to the dating scene, the sexual market collapse. If you are a guy listening to this who uses dating apps, you already know the stat we're about to mention.
The 80-20 rule.
Or even stricter, according to Riker.
He calls it eugenics by swipe. The data shows women on these apps rate the vast majority of men as below average. It's hypergamy weaponized by technology.
He proves it with that anecdote about the Honda Civic versus the rented Lamborghini.
Right, a guy makes 2 identical dating profiles.
Same guy, same face.
But in one, he's posing with his everyday Honda Civic. In the other, he's leaning on a rented Lambo.
And the results are completely night and day. The Lambo profile gets vastly more matches. Women are initiating the conversations.
It completely dismantles the narrative that women are swiping based on personality or kindness. Riker uses it to show the market is ruthlessly transactional.
It's a harsh reality check, but even if you navigate that market, get married, and have kids, The book argues the danger is far from over.
because then you face the death of fatherhood.
Yeah, this part was heavy. He targets family courts, specifically how they use the best interests of the child standard.
He claims it's used as a weapon to systematically remove fathers from the home. He says the system essentially turns fathers into walking wallets.
Forcing them to pay child support for kids they are legally alienated from.
Exactly.
So if we take all this in the legal immunity, the economic drain, the war on male excellence, it honestly sounds incredibly bleak. But Riker does offer a solution.
He does. But the solution isn't trying to vote harder or fix the system.
Because he argues the system is functioning exactly as it was designed to.
Right. The solution is leaving it. This is all laid out in Chapter 20, The Path to Male Reawakening.
And he starts with a behavioral strategy called praxa.
Praxa is essentially the practice of non-validation. It means you stop validating emotional excuses.
So when the emotional veto is used against you,
When someone says, I feel unsafe or I'm triggered, praxa means you refuse to apologize just for existing. You refuse to concede reality to someone else's feelings.
it's rejecting the entire premise that you need permission to occupy space. And beyond just mindset, he talks about actual physical separation, building male-only spaces.
Yeah, he points at things like Project Frontier, where men are buying land, forming their own communities, and relearning traditional skills.
He backs up why this works with that Norwegian fishing crew study.
That study is fascinating. They looked at commercial fishing crews, comparing all-male teams to mixed-gender teams.
And the all-male crews were significantly more productive.
More productive, higher morale, and crucially, zero HR complaints. Riker uses that to say, look, men are naturally highly cooperative and efficient when they don't have to walk on eggshells constantly worrying about the GSR machine.
So his ultimate vision is men returning to the trivium logic, grammar, rhetoric.
Embracing stoicism, building things with their own hands, and completely rejecting the feminist Marxist narrative.
It's really an autopsy of a gynocratic civilization, just like he promised.
It is. And remember, the book is written as a weapon for men who value truth and logic and who are just done being silenced.
Because according to Riker, that silence is the only thing allowing the gynocracy to survive.
Exactly.
Listen, if you want to understand the history of these institutions before they were captured, if you want to see the full scope of this argument, and there is so much more data in the book than we could ever fit into one deep dive, you need to buy this ebook right now.
Definitely. Go to Amazon Kindle or Google Play Books and search for Women's Illegal Supremacy, Feminist, Marxist, Postmodernist.
And while you're at it, make sure to follow the author for more updates. You can find him at Conrad Riker on Substack.
Highly recommend following him.
Also, if you want us to keep bringing you these deep dives into forbidden, totally unfiltered topics, please take a second to hit that like and subscribe button.
We really appreciate the support. I want to leave you with a final thought directly from the book today. Riker writes, "The silent war is over. The real war for truth has just begun."
And that leaves us with something to really mull over. If this system truly relies on male economic participation to fund its own institutions, what actually happens to the global order when millions of men simply read this book, wake up, and quietly decide to opt out? Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next deep dive.